Okay, here's our second part of our math review. Now you should know how to write a decimal as a fraction as a decimal, and write numbers in expanded form. Remember, if you're confused, there are several things you can do. You can go back and watch the videos from previous days. You can look at the reteaching in your workbook and problem solve the reteaching side, looking at the directions they give you. And you can also go into your math textbook. And in your math textbook, at the end of chapter 1 or topic 1, you will find a review page. And they give a really nice explanation of the review page. And I highly recommend looking at that before tomorrow's assessment. All right, so the one thing we didn't go over in the last video was how to order and compare decimals. Really, it's this very similar skill. It's just figuring out which decimal is bigger than the other. I want you to take a look at this next decimal. I'm going to try to trick you. Okay, pause your video, compare these two decimals, and see what you come up with for which one is the largest. Go ahead and pause your video now. All right, welcome back. Okay, so when I look at these, I look at this number, and I can read it 8 and 652 thousandths. I know if I'm reading it on the place value chart, it ends in the thousandths column. Therefore, I like to say that this is its last name, thousandths, and that's why you say thousandths at the end. Okay, thousandths sounds pretty big, but I want you to recall what a thousandth looks like if you were to visualize it. So if you were to think of this as being a whole thing, this whole thing would have to be cut up into 1,000 pieces, and I'm of course not going to really get to 1,000, and then 1,000 pieces, and so it would be an itsy bitsy piece. So thousandths are really small. So if we know that thousandths are really small, we got to keep that in mind. A number that ends in hundredths can technically be larger than a number that ends in thousandths. So if I write the number 8 and 71 hundredths on the place value chart, it's a little easier to compare. I can even add a 0 because I know that 71 thousandths and 71 hundredths are equivalent. This 0 is just showing that there's no thousandths. So if I look at it that way, it's really easy to see at this point that they are equal in the ones column, but in this tenths column, 7 is bigger than 6. 7 tenths is more than 6 tenths. Therefore, 8 and 71 hundredths is the biggest decimal, or number rather. Okay, so if I'm going to do my little greater than, less than, or equal to symbol, I am going to pretend that I have my crocodile because I still like to go back to that. And my crocodile is going to eat my 8 and 71 hundredths. And then just for fun, I like to change it into a little crocodile. About to chomp that number. Okay, now to get you thinking in a different way, I'm going to have you visualize on the hundreds grid. So here are my two numbers, 1 and 24 hundredths, and not 1, just 24 hundredths, and 240 thousandths. Those are my two numbers. 24 hundredths, 240 thousandths. First of all, I want you to pause and imagine how you would draw those out. Go ahead and pause your video now. Okay, up at the top, I wrote the two different numbers, and now I'm going to draw them out. You see if this is what you imagined. So I'm looking at my tenths place right there, and there's 2. So I'm going to have 2 tenths. And then in my hundredths column, there are 4, so I'm going to have 4 hundredths. And then in my thousand column, there is nothing, so I'm done drawing that number. Now I'm going to move over to the next one. In my tenths column, there are 2, so I'm going to do 2. In my hundredths column, there are 4. And in my thousandths column, there are 0. So I don't have to draw any thousandths. Wait a second. What did you notice was the same about these two? You're right. This over here, the 24 hundredths, it's implying that there are 0 thousandths, 0 ten thousandths, 0 hundred thousandths. But right here, we wrote out the 0 to say that there are 0 thousandths. But when you look at the quantity, what each number represents, it's exactly the same amount. So these are equivalent fractions or decimals. If I were to write them as fractions, I would write 24 hundredths is equal to 240 thousandths. That's kind of important to file away in your brain. We're going to come back to that later in the year. Now, the biggest trick to ordering and comparing numbers is to go slow and careful. Often kids get tempted not really think through each number, but to move quickly to get it done. I get it. Never a good call when you're doing a math test. When you are or any math problem, when you're doing a math problem, your brain needs to be really thinking. I'm going to give you some numbers. They're also going to be on your slide in Schoology, and I would like you to figure these out. This is a good practice. Again, if you're feeling like you need more practice, which is always a good thing, look at your reteaching pages, go to your textbook and find that page. It's the second to last one in topic 1, and that is your review page. You'll really like those review pages. All right, everybody, thank you so much for doing math. Enjoy your math problems. Here they are, and they're also in the slide in Schoology, which is titled Topic 1 Review. All right, go ahead and pause your video so you can finish this up. Enjoy, you guys. I can't wait to see how well you do on your math assessment tomorrow. If you have questions, please make sure you come and see me.